Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our informal roundtable discussion around the idea of what am I doing? Around coming full circle, right? SPAA alumni who are now SPAA employees. And I don't know about you, but I'm definitely excited to hear some of the cool stories and the happenings that happen because we have different generations and different levels represented here. So I just want to say welcome everyone to this experience, to this lunchtime informal chat. I hope it'll be as nourishing for you as it will be for me. I just want to quickly introduce our moderator, who is a dear friend and colleague, Meril Antony. She's a doctoral candidate at the School of Public Affairs Administration right here at SPAA. Her research focuses on co-production theory, the problem of co-production barriers or facilitators in a schooling context, and its social equity implications. Her research seeks to provide greater interlinkage between education as a public service to public management frameworks. Without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Meril, who's going to kick off this discussion, and I'm going to be in the background.
All right, thank you, Kareem. And I'm going to quickly introduce Kareem as well, because he didn't introduce himself. Kareem is a doctoral candidate, and he's also my colleague. We're in the same cohort at SPAA. He also works on social equity and social justice issues and concerns broadly around leadership and public management. So he'll be moderating the Q&A session, but I've also asked him if he wants to jump in and be my co-moderator and partner in crime. More than happy to sort of accompany that. But welcome everyone. This is our second event in recognition of the 15th anniversary of SPAA. It's my pleasure today to be a moderator and to sort of highlight some of our in-house change makers who have sort of completed the full circle. Like Kareem said, they've been on this side of the classroom and now they are faculty and staff, and it would be amazing to sort of hear some of the inspiring stories and learn from them. So before I begin, before introducing the panelists, so we have a set of few questions, 5 questions that we have prepared for the panelists. But since this is a big panel and we want to make sure that everyone's voice is being heard, so apart from the exception of the first question, which will be for all panelists, the other 4 questions, it's up to the panelists if we could only get maybe 2 or 3 responses, so that it ensures that everyone gets to speak today. But that being said, I would also say that if anyone definitely wants to chime in and there's an insight or a story that definitely needs to be heard, please definitely chime in. We want to keep the last 10 minutes for Q&A, which will be moderated by Kareem. So he'll be moderating the chat session. So audience, if you have comments or questions, please make sure to write it in the chat. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce the panelists. So first one is our amazing Dean, Sharon Stroye. She is the Director of the Public Engagement at the School of Public Affairs and Administration at Rutgers University, Newark. She graduated from SPAA's MPA program in 2006. Dean Stroye has over 20 years of higher education experience working with students in undergrad, grad, and public professional degrees. She is also currently the co-leader of the Truth, Racial Healing and Transformation Center in Rutgers, Newark. Welcome, Dean Stroye. Elijah Smith is the director of Rutgers University's Newark's debate team, which is housed again at the School of Public Affairs and Administration. Elijah has a long history with the debate program at RUN and SPAA. While earning his Bachelor's of Art in Public and Nonprofit Administration, Elijah helped the debate team achieve numerous national victories and milestones as a debater. So welcome, Elijah. Our third panelist is Dr. Lois Warner. She is an assistant teaching professor in the School of Public Affairs and Administration. She completed a PhD from SPAA in 2007. She is the director of the institutional assessment at SPAA. And in 2019, she was also the chair of ASPA's section on historical, artistic, and reflective expression, where she also teaches the course on arts and culture in public service, which introduces the future generation of public administrators to artistic representation of the field and the interpretation of its culture. So welcome, Dr. Warner. Our fourth panelist is Dr. Michael Dillard. He's an assistant teaching professor in the School of Public Affairs and Administration. He previously also served as the director of the Rutgers Are You Ready for Work program, which created a pipeline for students with 100% high school graduation and college acceptance rate, with about 60% of those students pursuing degrees at Rutgers Newark. He received his doctorate in higher education administration from Rowan University, and he graduated from SPAA with an MPA degree in 2010. So welcome, Dr. Dillard. Madelene Perez, she's currently our Associate Dean for Finance and Administration at SPAA. She graduated with her MPA degree from SPAA in 2009. In her current role, she is responsible for providing financial and overall administrative management for a variety of business-related functions, such as finance, budget, personnel, and grant administration. So welcome, Madelene. Our sixth panelist is Dr. Domonic Bearfield. He's an associate professor at SPAA. He completed his PhD in public administration from SPAA in 2004. His research focuses on issues related to governance in public administration and on improving the understanding of public sector patronage. He's also currently the editorial board of in the editorial board of Public Administration Review Journal and the Administrative Theory and Praxis Journal. So welcome, Dr. Bearfield. And finally, we have Jane Sharp. She is the director of the New Jersey Certified Public Management Program in the School of Public Affairs and Administration. She also has an MPA degree from SPAA. And over the past 25 years, she has worked for both nonprofits and state government. She conducts her research and evaluation for a number of grant-funded projects with Rutgers and other organizations. So welcome, Jane. So again, thank you very much for attending this panel. So now, without further ado, I'm going to ask the first question. And I think one of the first questions, especially since the current topic is the in-house change makers, and this is being about the SPAA alumni who are now faculty and staff. The first question would be, describe your motivating factor in selecting public administration as a career to pursue. Again, there's no order, so anyone who wants to start could do so. Or I can call out and start. All right, so I will call out. Dean Stroye, do you want to maybe start with the first question?
I will go first, and then I'll do what we call popcorn and pass it to the next person. So I came into public administration. I came into SPAA after I had already started a career in public administration. My first role at Rutgers University, Newark, was the director of the Upper Bound program, a federally funded program with a multi-year grant from the U.S. Department of Education to prepare high school students to go to college. In my last year of the program, as we lost funding, that's when I enrolled in my first SPAA class and realized at that time that I probably should have done the degree before I took on that particular role, but it was absolutely insightful of everything that I learned, everything that the information that I obtained was really applicable to the career that I was pursuing in higher ed. Upon completing my degree is when I transitioned into the School of Arts and Sciences as the director of the Newark Academic Transition Program, a special admission program to prepare college students that didn't necessarily have the SAT scores, but had the GPA requirement for admission. And the things that I learned in my classes, it was at that point that I was able to apply it. You know, an in-house budget, how to organize a brand new program and build it from the ground up was really, really informative, not realizing that public administration and higher education would be my passion for, wow, this December will be 30 years I've been in higher ed and advising and helping students. And being able to just say, that public administration, regardless of your interests or your hobbies, can lead you to choices. And I think that's really what my motivation was, is that I'd had the opportunity to do different things with my public administration degree, whether it's budgeting, consulting, advising, mentoring, and now community building and public engagement. So that was really my motivation, that it has turned into a full passion for public administration. I will pass it to Madelene.
Thanks, Sharon. So when I actually started at SPAA, I was still doing my undergraduate degree program. I was doing my undergraduate degree program in finance and in accounting. And I first heard about SPAA, obviously, through a previous colleague of mine, Melissa. She had told me about the school, and she said, at the time it was a department, it wasn't a school yet. And she had told me, hey, there's an opening, for us to work together at the, at the Department of Public Administration, and I think you would be great. And at the time, I was actually employed at the library. So I've always been a type of person that I do like to talk to people. I do like to kind of help people out. And so when I found out about the position that I was starting at in the beginning, I was going to essentially be an administrative secretary, which is basically doing clerical work and whatnot. But it was during that time that I actually learned more about the program, especially about the degree and the master's degree in public administration. And I actually sat in a class, and for me, it was just a turning point because they were so passionate about the community, number one, and also about giving service to people, and especially to the students. And for me, that resonated a lot because I've always wanted to be in a position where I can help others. It's more of a pass forward kind of mentality that I've always had. And so my motivation, obviously, for being at SPAA, I've been at SPAA for about, I would say, close to 20 years already. And it's a testament to the fact that I enjoy my work. Not only do I deal with the business function of the school and the administrative function of the school, but I also have the opportunity to work with students. And oftentimes I see myself in these students and I say, wow, I've come a long way. And I would hope the same for the students that are in the program, that they come a long way and that they feel passionate about a degree and that they also want to go out into the world and make a difference, so to speak. So that's my motivation, is essentially, being a part of SPAA and try to pay it forward and kind of just help anyone that comes along the way. Thank you.
I can jump in here next. So during high school, I was a member of, my high school's debate team here in the city of Newark. I then was part of the pipeline, right, between middle school, high school, and the university debate team. And so debate is about civic engagement, right? It is about talking about global and local issues. We talked about everything from funding, pension systems to economic sanctions, to sub-Saharan Africa aid, right? And so the natural fit from talking about these issues, right, and figuring out how to fund them and how to resolve equity concerns, right, and how to be an advocate was to move into public service. And so most of the training that I received in SPAA about different topics and, things that I learned about in high school or, in college debate, they lined up really well. So SPAA was a good fit to figure out how those theoretical concerns, right, inside of debates, right, could be applied to the community that I was in or other communities around me.
I guess I'll jump in next then. So yes, I also remember those days, Madelene, when the School of Public Affairs and Administration was actually a department. I started during those days myself. But my motivating factor is I feel that I was always doing public administration work, although at the time, strangely enough, I had no idea that I was doing public administration, because obviously public administration, when you think about it, is so broad. And the versatility of public administration and being a change agent and really understanding what public service looks like and how it feels. Prior to joining SPAA, I served as an executive director managing nursing homes and assisted living facilities. So for me, working in healthcare administration and impacting the lives of seniors certainly was a gratifying moment and position for me. I started looking into different graduate level programs, and my undergraduate degree was in business finance and management. So I was always good with the quantitative and numbers and finance, But in looking at, public administration, I had a sit down talk with, at the time, Judith Kirchhoff, who served as the associate dean for SPAA. And, she sold me on the program. She told me about, in terms of what public administration is, how I can actually utilize that particular degree if I wanted to further advance within healthcare, although at the time I kind of wanted out of healthcare and I wanted to transition over into higher education. But, in attending those classes and working on my master's degree in public administration, it really gave me a deeper dive and understanding of the critical needs within my own community. It gave me a better understanding of really understanding leadership versus management, understanding in terms of budgeting, how to finance, and, actually to seek funding, grant writing, the importance of really understanding what it means to be that change agent, being that responsible citizen. It's great to talk about all of those problems, but how are you going to be the change maker? What are you going to do to specifically tackle those particular issues? And how will you utilize that administrative degree to be able to somehow join in that change movement, as I like to call it? So for me, it was always doing that public administration work. It was always, being in the trenches, and then having that degree was able to solidify the work that I was already doing. So I guess I didn't forget about you, Director Stroye. I guess you said we're playing the popcorn game. So I'm going to pass it on now to Jane.
Thank you, Michael. I take the popcorn. So yes, my name is Jane Sharp, and I graduated from SPAA in 2010, and I got the master's degree, the executive master's degree program, and it was held at that point in Trenton. And we attended class together 2 days a week for 2 years. At that point, I was in state government, and I'd spent 15 years at a YMCA, a nonprofit, and then 9 years in state government. And so I think I was looking for a master's degree and trying to figure out what to do. And it turns out my boss knew about this program, so we took the class together, which was kind of fun. And I'm still in contact with the people from my cohort, which was a great thing. I think what I learned from SPAA, one of the biggest things was, turns out I really enjoy research. I didn't know that before. Oh, I should mention, it was 30 years from my undergraduate to my graduate degree. A lot changed in education and student experience in 30 years. So I hadn't been back in the classroom. So I think that was the other piece, is that I found the cohort model very helpful for someone who hadn't been in college for a long time. And I had to learn how to write like a college student again. I was used to writing papers for commissioners, but not papers for college, different. So it was a great experience, but the one thing I think I learned the most was to start with a question instead of starting with an answer. In government, we tend to see a problem, fix a problem, and not see a problem and take a step back, look at what the real problem is, and then look at the solution. So that was a big thing for me to learn from SPAA. And then a few years later, I wrote the grant that got us the CPM program, and I built a lot of the things from my EMPA into the whole idea of a cohort model that we use in CPM came from my experience as taking a cohort for my master's degree. So it really has carried with me for 11 years now since I graduated. So I will play popcorn to who hasn't gone yet. That's my prop. Dominic, have you gone yet? Okay.
I will go. So my process is a little bit about ruling things out. My dad is a police officer, and when I was younger, my mom worked at Boy Scouts of America over in Orange on Main Street. And so in some ways, I thought this would be like going into the family business, except for I didn't want to walk a beat, and I thought I would be a city manager. I quickly realized that I did not have the temperament to be a city manager. When you're a city manager, you always have to be able to make sure you have 4 votes on your side, and I can be a bit contrarian, so I figured that would not give me a lot of job stability. So at the time, I thought, well, maybe I'll go to law school. And my mentor, Bob Denhart, during my MPA, told me, he goes, well, I always thought you'd get a PhD. And I was struggling to come up with 800 words about why I wanted to be a lawyer. Like a lot of people, it just seemed like, well, that's what professionals do. You go to law school, you go to med school, that sort of thing. And so he asked me to fill out the application for Rutgers. And overnight, I had my essay it just could have just poured out of me. And when I went back to talk to him about it, he was like, I think you have your answer about what you're supposed to do. He understood before I did that this was my passion and this was how I was supposed to spend my life. So I spent a lot of time trying to fight that. And it was finally when I came to Rutgers and decided to lean into this work that I realized how important it was to me. And I will pass on to my dear friend Lois.
Hello, everyone. My pleasure to follow up from Dr. Bearfield. Similarly, the parental socialization was very much a part of my decision to study public administration. My parents were both public service professionals. My mother worked in sports management and my father in urban development. And it was a common discussion around the table when we had dinner together about the interests of the public and how we could develop programs and monitoring the effect of programs. And it was a discussion that I was exposed to. Now, as you may know, my doctoral research was on public service motivation. And in retrospect, I have a much better idea of what really motivated me. And certainly the parental socialization was a large part of it. But what is also important is what sustained that motivation while I was at Rutgers Newark. I came on board in the doctoral program in 2002. We were still part of the graduate school at the time, but by the time I graduated, it had become the School of Public Affairs Administration. During that time, I was a research assistant at the Joseph C. Cornwell Center for Metropolitan Studies, which was so exciting for me, having heard my father talk so much about urban development and its potential and such like. And I was able to study the urban plans of Newark for the 20th century, and around that to develop an exhibit online as well as in the Robeson Center, along with a symposium that invited leaders from related organizations such as the Newark Public Library, the Historical Society, the museum, NJIT, they all came on board. And we had a symposium in the Dana Library. We also had a publication that came out of this. And that was a very exciting period for me. What was also exciting, which I didn't mention, is that I have a background in arts and culture. And that research enabled me to make connections in all of these arts and culture related organizations in Newark. And that for me was really exciting. And since then, as Meril mentioned, I do teach a course on the arts and culture of public service. And I continue to be really invested in human resource development for the field. And I have been teaching the career explorations course, but every time students come into my classroom, I'm thinking about how they will develop and take their place in the public sector and do meaningful work. And I know that our program does a really good job of not only giving them the knowledge, but also in developing skills, you know, in managing public organizations and doing research and things that are so important for them to have real fulfillment in courses in public affairs administration. So that's the source of my motivation, the arts, of course, and my parents' influence in guiding me into a career. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Warner. And I think listening to all of you, I think one of the most common themes that are actually emerging is that community, wanting to talk to people, wanting to help students. I think those are some of the factors that are common across all of you, which actually helps me segue into my second question, which was, how did this experience in SPAA and at Rutgers Newark help you find your first position after you completed your degree, whether it was your EMPA or your PhD? And like I mentioned before, I think for the rest of the questions, we could probably take 2 to 3 responses so that we can have a much more vibrant discussion and also go through the other questions. So if anyone wants to probably take a shot at this.
I can start, and the last shall be first. I'm happy to start. When I graduated from SPAA, I was hired by the City University of New York, and I taught in the public management department at John Jay College for Criminal Justice. And that was a wonderful experience. You know, of course, New York is an incredible experience, having really been based in New Jersey for a while, just across the river. But it really was an awakening for me. And I had, my students were very, very diverse, you know, as is New York. And that was really interesting for me to understand the different needs, different perspectives, the different challenges. And I think I really developed my teaching skills, improved my teaching skills to a great extent by having the kind of exposure I had at John Jay College. But what I would like to say is, although I loved Rutgers Newark, I always wanted to teach at SPAA. I will tell you, I applied for just about everything over the years. I just wanted to teach at SPAA. And I think eventually they said, okay, we'll have her come. I really did. But what I wanted to say was, it's so important when you graduate from a university that you spend some time at another university to be able to compare and contrast and return even more convinced than ever that Rutgers Newark is the place that you might want to be. Thank you.
You know, I want to lean in on this conversation because I was in arts and sciences when I finished my MPA degree. And then upon completion that, they started offering courses for an undergraduate major in SPAA. I probably can honestly say I probably can't, I don't know, harass, stalk Dean Daniels. Like if there was an opportunity to work in SPAA, I just let me know, whatever it is, a part-time, because I had such an amazing experience in my classes, to the point to where Dr. Piotrowski was one of my instructors. Dr. Ricucci wrote the question for completing the comp exam. And so my classmates and I went and met with her to make sure that we answered the question correctly in order to pass the comp. But it was such an experience that I lived in Dean Daniels' office for the opportunity to whatever, like you, Lois, whatever that was to be in SPAA. And I was fortunate enough to be the first assistant dean for the undergraduate program in the School of Public Affairs Administration. But like you, Lois, I just felt that I needed to be there.
Thank you. Thank you, Dean Stroye, and thank you, Dr. Warner. Does anyone else have any particular SPAA story that they want to share with respect to completion of the degree? But I absolutely enjoyed, I think it's very nice to visually understand how you all have transitioned from your SPAA degree and actually wanting to go back to SPAA in one form or the other, which actually makes me question one thing, which would be my third question, that if you had to do it all over again, what would you do it differently? And so I'll ask someone else to answer this one, but then if Dean Stroye and Dean Warner want to maybe chime in, if there's something else that they wanted to do differently, they can always say something.
I'll take that one. So I think if I had to do it over again, I wouldn't wait 30 years from my undergraduate to my graduate degree. That's my biggest thing, is that, I graduated from undergrad and wasn't thinking about a master's, just wanted to jump into life. And then 30 years went by in a heartbeat. So I think that the advantage of moving on to your master's degree, maybe get some experience out in the world and combine that with your master's degree is a nice combination. But there are so many opportunities and doors that open when you have a master's in public administration that I think if I'd started it earlier, who knows where I would have gone. But I guess if there's anybody that's an undergrad on this behind the participants, to just think about that master's degree. Don't wait 30 years.
I have a similar sentiment about the master's program. While I was in the BA program, I didn't really understand what it meant to go and pick a master's degree, and fully to kind of map a career path. But looking back, I totally wish I had done the master's program, the 5-year master's, especially. It seemed to me, to at the time, right, I was like, oh, I need to kind of mix and match, or maybe I need to go do something different, or maybe I need a completely separate master's degree. But I think it would have made the most sense at the time to kind of specialize, right, and find, right, my kind of niche within public administration based on the interests that I had developed, right, as an undergrad. And so it took me extra time, and a lot of extra effort to go, right, to school someplace else when I already, had a path, a track, a network here at Rutgers. And it would have been really simple, right, to push, take a couple extra credits, right, and to finish the 5-year master's degree. Because now I have students who are every year we have students. I'm like, do the master's degree, right? It's a great degree, right? It's helpful. We see that folks find gainful employment after they do it, and they can capitalize on things that they've already been working on and things that they care about. They don't have to go someplace else to do it.
I think if I were to do anything differently, I would, and this is going to sound like a total professor answer, so please forgive me, I would lean into the things that scared me. It's taken me this long to sort of try to do things that I'm not really good at. There's a tendency to want to stick to things that you feel more comfortable with. So I probably would have leaned into quant 2 a little bit harder as opposed to just trying to get up out of there. Because you realize how much of those things are missing, and there are things that you want to do that you have to rely on other people now, because when you were younger, you were afraid to lean into it. And so if there are parts of things of your programs that scare you, now is the time to sort of take that L if you have to, but it'll help you in the long run. It'll help develop you.
Excellent. I think that's absolutely, I think coming from like me, who has done an MPA program and then transitioned into a PhD program, I think I absolutely attest to like some of the benefits of being in SPAA and having that opportunity to understand what SPAA is able to give you and the network and the mentorship that SPAA provides. But like even Kareem can probably attest, because he's the only person at SPAA who has done his BA, MPA, and now doing his PhD degree. And like I would tell him to chime in, like if he wants to like talk about how if he would have done it differently, or would he actually like trade this for not doing it at SPAA, or maybe coming back later and doing it. So I know Kareem, I'm putting you on a spot over here, but
that's fine. I mean, I put in the chat, there's something in the SPAA water that keeps you coming back. I think I wouldn't have changed anything about my experience, and I'm not saying that it was entirely perfect or anything of that sort, but I think there is a level of support and a network that I was able to build at SPAA that I'm not confident I would have been able to build anywhere else. And so from my initial meeting with then Dean Stroye that summer of 2012, when I wanted to get into the BA MPA program, and I was getting all these, like running into all these roadblocks, people telling me I had to do my first year and then transfer to SPAA. And she was just like, no, that's not our job. My job here is to get you a good education, get you to graduate and get you into a good job. And she literally just like stamping as she goes along, and she gathers the papers and goes, take this to the registrar. And that's how I ended up getting into the BA MPA program. I didn't even understand, like even to Elijah's point, I didn't quite understand what it was, but I knew that I wanted to be here, and I knew I had a passion for serving. I knew I had a passion for community development. I knew I had a passion for justice, and this is where I was able to kind of cultivate that and find my voice. And so I wouldn't have done anything differently. Even when the PhD program came, I was thinking, like Jane, I want to go live my life. I want to go get a grown-up job. I want to go have grown-up experiences. And at the time I had Melissa as my professor for a leadership class, and she came to me and she's just like, I need you to speak up more in my class because you have so much to say. And then she started planting seeds about the PhD program. I was like, I'm not sure. Even Dr. Dillard did the same thing. I had ethics with him, and he came and he was just like, have you ever thought about the PhD program? And I was like, what is it? Why is everybody talking about this PhD program? I don't even know what this is. Like, what? And then I started exploring, and then sooner or later, Dr. Rakuchi sent me an email. Hey, I heard you've been inquiring about the program. And I was like, you know what? I might need to really consider this. And literally within like 2 months, I prepared my application and submitted it, and now here I am. I wouldn't have changed anything because I'm now seeing, and let's say hindsight is always 2020. I'm now seeing the benefits of having gone all the way through, because it gives me a lot of perspective as to where I can really take this and what I would hope to do. So if anybody there is listening and you're considering all these different things, I would say start exploring them from now so that you can really plan out your life the way you'd like it to.
Thank you, Kareem. And I think that considering the fact that the advice you just gave to the thing, I'm interested to know from the panelists as to what other advice would you give to the current students, especially if they wanted to follow in your footsteps. So someone who has done an EMPA program, we have someone who has done PhD in public administration, you have undergraduate degrees over here at SPAA. So what would be the advice that you give to the current students who want to follow the same path into public service, into public administration, into community engagement?
I think that question for some reason has my name on it. And I know all of the panelists here, you know this about me, but I'm really big into this idea of social capital and building your network and putting a number of events together with SPAA. And I think even for myself, one thing that I didn't talk about a little bit earlier is actually how I came into taking on a position with SPAA. I did an externship actually after finishing my master's degree. And I too was like LOIS and Sharon, harassing Judith Kirchhoff and everyone else a part of the administrative team of please hire me, I need a job opportunity. I banged on at the time Madelene's door because I already knew her. I was banging on Melissa's door, Gail Daniels. But one of the problems though, however, is that I had a wealth of healthcare administrative experience, but I didn't work in higher education. I didn't work in the School of Public Affairs and Administration. So the language was different for me. Although I had a wealth of professional experience, I've done a number of wonderful job and career opportunities. I would say for current students, what I really recommend, and I drill this in with my current undergraduate students as well as my master's students this semester, networking is key. Don't be shy. Feel comfortable with being uncomfortable. Reaching out to a number of people in the field. Start thinking now about what it is that I want to do in terms of an actual career. Start thinking about those short and long-term goals and start thinking about possible mentors along the way that can help you. So one of the ways as an assistant teaching professor with SPAA that I've done, and I've been doing this since actually back in the days when Kareem was a student in the undergraduate program, bringing in professionals to the classroom to be able to speak to students, but not only so much of speaking to students, talking about their own career trajectory, what mistakes they made along the way, purposely and being intentional and making sure that those guest speakers leave their business card and then having a class session afterwards of a reflective moment. Okay, make sure you follow up with that guest speaker. Send out an email, put together 2 or 3 talking points. What did you really enjoy about today's presentation? What did you enjoy overall about today's panel discussion? Make sure that you ask questions during the actual presentation so somehow that guest speaker can remember you then. I think that's one of the biggest things that a textbook or a professor doesn't necessarily perhaps maybe prepare the students for. You kind of have to have that go get it mentality. You need to have more than just simply the book smarts, I believe, just to be very open and honest, because you can have a lot of degrees and still find it challenging to find a job. I know that. And then finding in terms of a paid job, in terms of the actual salary that you want. So you've got to be able to network and to build that social capital, and again, just feeling comfortable with it, and finding different ways to reach out to people. For me, whether it's sending out emails, even if I didn't meet someone in a let's say a class presentation, it could be just sending out an email to a local representative at an organization, just saying, hey, I'm a student at Rutgers University in Newark. I'm interested in healthcare. I'm interested in local government. I'm interested in doing perhaps a possible internship opportunity with your organization. Again, finding those creative ways is what I would say in terms of what current students should be doing if you want to really get into the footsteps of any of our positions out there.
I want to back up something that Dr. Warner said earlier about the importance of going away and coming back. I always had it in my mind, like I'm Jersey through and through. So I always had it in my mind that I would be back in some way. But by going to New Hampshire, going to Texas A&M, I learned other ways of doing things that I'm now able to bring back and give to my students. And as a person who, went K through 7 in Newark, I see so much of myself in my students, and I want to give them the absolute best that I can. And having these other experiences, I think, have made me a better professor. And so it helps me to look at things from a variety of different ways. I know Dr. Warner said that earlier, but I really wanted to sort of reemphasize that point because I think it's important.
Does anyone else want to have any final advice to current students that they want to talk about?
I would just like to add, and this is definitely promotional, but I'm totally biased and I'm not apologizing for it. Rutgers Newark and Rutgers University overall is a very stable, well-established university with enormous high quality resources, right? The research base and the different specializations in terms of different departments and organizations within the university is just, for me, thrilling. So there's the opportunity for you to develop in many ways coming into SPAA because of our relationship with other departments and schools. So I think there's the opportunity for you to really grow and find yourself there. And because of the diversity as well, to be more culturally competent and things like that are very important in the 21st century. So that's just my general comment. Even the location of the school is just excellent because of the number of high-level institutions that are within walking distance. So of course, this is taking it for granted that we will be, face-to-face and on the ground in the near future. But you have that definitely to look forward to. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Warner. So before I open the comments, I also wanted to remind the audience, if you have any questions or comments for the panelists, please free to put it on the chat box. But I think one of the things that's coming out from this conversation is that there's so much mentorship, there's so much wealth of information among you and also among the different faculty and staff at SPAA. And students are, I think, so lucky that we get to have that in SPAA, and we can sort of talk to you, get the mentorship, get the network, and also sort of understand what career paths we would like to go. And understanding that, and especially it being backed with the public service commitment and the passion for community engagement, I think SPAA really is an embodiment of its mission and its values. So I'm going to switch over to Kareem if he has any questions that he would like to ask or any comments.
Sure. I mean, before we go, of course, I want to use the opportunity to get some stories and some memories out in there. We've asked about legacy, we've asked about professional lives and so on. So I want to end on a lighthearted note. And so without getting in trouble or implicating anyone else, what is your funniest SPAA memory or SPAA story?
Oh, I'll start with that one because I have a fun one. So it was the spring semester of 2009, and we had a instructor who was, I think he worked in the Department of Treasury teaching us the class, and he required that everyone had to come to class. It was kind of like junior high-ish, like you had to come to class, and if you didn't come to class, you had to have a note or excuse or something, right? He was very big on attendance, which is kind of odd for a master's degree program. So we had someone in our program who, unfortunately, his brother was in the World Trade Center on September 11th and had passed away. And he created a 9/11 family foundation and worked with the other families that had lost family members. And that's what his job was when he took the MPA. He was the director of this foundation. And he got a call to go to the White House with President Obama and to sit down and talk about, because they were at that point planning the 9/11 memorial, and they wanted input from families. And since he represented families, so he went down to DC, and it was on a class day. And so he went into this room. There weren't many seats left. He took a seat. And when he sat down, it turns out Obama sat next to him. And they had like a 2-hour conversation about families and legacy and the memorial. And at the end, lots of people brought out pieces of paper to say, to get Obama's signature. And he said, I'll sign things afterwards. And Antony slid a piece of paper and said, but I need an excuse from you to miss class today. So Obama signed an excuse form that he could miss class because he was with the president. So Antony brought this back down. We all have copies of it. I don't think he gave the original to the instructor, but it was pretty funny that his excuse came from Obama.
That's hilarious.
Do you know what I want to add to that particular question, Kareem? While just sitting here thinking about looking at all of these faces in the Hollywood squares and in these Zoom boxes, one of the things that I actually miss is being able to be in the building, walk around the hall to being able to laugh in Madeline's office, Melissa's office, Denise's office, and listen to our life stories and just take a moment in the midst of our day just to laugh. That's if I want to miss anything, I don't miss the commute. I'm just going to be transparent about that. But be able to walk around the hall into somebody's office and take a moment just to listen to a story about what one of our children did or our kids did, or even our parents when they don't want to listen to us, and laugh. So I'm sitting here looking at these faces. That's the one thing that I think about, the ability just to, as Charles said, be a family.
I am with you on that. I miss Madeline's, hi, honey. Or my desk is right outside Lindsay's office, right? Lindsay McDougall's office, and her and Dr. Hamadullah have like the funniest friendship. And so just like hear the two of them carry on, or like just have their usual morning exchange. It's like, why are you here? Why are you here? It's like the funniest thing to me.
I'd like to share from the,
yes,
I'm sorry, I thought you were finished.
No, go ahead.
I'd like to share from the artistic perspective. You should know that all of our offices are color coded. We get to choose what color we will have our office. So every office you walk into, you get an idea of that person's personality and such like. And many times you might, well, I've had the experience where students have asked me, well, why did you choose this color? What does this color mean to you? And perhaps that happens to other faculty and staff as well. Yes, so the school itself is a quite colorful environment, and from that perspective, thank you.
I'm going to just chime in and say that I missed the third floor's printer. I think Dr. Rikuchi, Dr. Imas, Kareem will all attest to how much we have banged our heads on our printer, because there's just so much paper that needs to sort of come, and so it's been this amazing chat group that you can have, that you can just discuss in and around. I don't know if Dr. Rikuchi or Dr. Imas is there, but I'm sure they'll attest to this, that I think printer has been one of the best conversation starters you could have, apart from the water cooler.
Indeed. And what about your favorite SPAA memory?
So for me, it's easy, and I think a lot of people have already said this. Like a lot of people, I wouldn't be here without Gail Daniels. Just being able back over in Hill Hall, you were getting your butt kicked day to day, and you could just go into her office, and she made you feel like you could do this. She made you feel like you belong, even when there were a couple of days where maybe you should leave the building. She was just always there, and I forever carry that. Like, I would not be here without Gail Daniels, and I think a lot of other people may feel the same.
What would be your favorite memory, Elijah and Madeline? Because I know the rest of the panelists are mostly faculty, and I'm sure you would have very different story, especially from the debate team perspective or finance department. So
my favorite memory, and it's weird because it's like a class memory, but I had a class on like performing arts and funding it, and also making it accessible. And so we talked about just like all these different projects. One of the projects we talked about was, making the Broadway show Spider-Man, right, Turn Off the Dark, accessible to kids with disabilities. And I don't know why, but it had never crossed my mind that something, right, as big, right, and as like, shiny, right, and as fun, as and very corporate as Broadway could be made accessible by, things like public administrators who are trying to make sure that kids, right, can have a chance to go see a show. And so that class, I remember, was fun. We all talked about, different shows that we really liked. And that was really one of the favorite moments in class where it really clicked for me that these aren't just, these aren't theories. These aren't, kind of just things that you can think about, but you can actually have like a real impact, right, on somebody's development, right, from, the cradle, right, till the end of life. And so that, was one of my favorite moments at SPAA because it made it really real that there are things you could do right now to make, change for somebody.
Well, I have a couple of favorite memories at SPAA, but there is one that actually stands out to me. It was a couple of years ago. I actually got an email from a student who at the time I didn't know that the student was going through a tough time. And, the student ended up sending me an email basically thanking me for listening and just for making these jokes, which at the time I didn't think it was funny, but it was just the fact that the student had reached out and said, I was really having a bad time. But the fact that even though you were having a crazy day, because I could see, you still took the time to sit down with me and just talk to me just about anything that was going on. You didn't press into anything. And I still have that email. So it just shows you never know what a person is going through. And you always got to kind of have a positive mentality and kind of remember that there is always someone out there that probably needs just to hear a good amount of encouragement or just to know that you're actually paying attention to him or her. And so I try to be cognizant of that because I think that for many of us, especially in the world that we live in right now, everything is so quick and it's so busy and you're getting pulled in so many different directions, whether it's in your personal life, your professional life. And I think it's very important to kind of take a moment and kind of see your surroundings, but also at the same time, just be present. And so for me, that was my favorite memory, was essentially knowing that that particular day, I was able to actually help someone.
Thank you. So I think we have a little over 5 minutes left. So there's one question that I would like to ask to each of the panelists, which is, given that you've had your trajectory from being in the classroom to now teaching and also being part of the staff, what are your hopes and dreams for SPAA and public administration in general? We can do popcorn again, or someone can, but you can take a minute if you want to think about the answer. Just in general, your vision for SPAA and for public administration.
So I'm actually going to start with something that I usually say to students. I've advised, mentor students for a number of years, but I think it's at SPAA where I get the opportunity to see students come in, not sure what they want to do, figure it out, but to make sure that we send them, faculty, staff, administration, send those students out into the organizations, into government, into corporate, because they can go into all of these industries, all of these sectors, and transform them from the inside out to where it really is about people's humanity. That if you are a public administrator in healthcare, in education, in politics, in criminal justice, in corporate America, that because you were at SPAA, you will transform that department, that company, that organization. And so I think part of the reason why I wanted to do public engagement is to help create an environment that if my children decide to throw me into a nursing home, that I know that there was a SPAA student that's going to take really good care of me. And so that, that is what my hope and future is for SPAA, and that I had a little bit to do about, a little bit impact in making that happen.
I totally agree with the sentiments that Sharon just expressed, and I think all of us really want to feel proud of the output and the outcomes of all of the energy that we exert at the school. But I want, again, from an artistic perspective, because that's my area. I would like to see us use our common spaces in a more meaningful way at the school. I think that we should do more to celebrate public servants and to give students more exposure to what it looks like and feels like to be a public servant and to have had a career in public service. So I'd like to see our walls paying tribute to these kind of people. I think it would be a great socialization process for students, as well as for us to walk by with pride and say, wow, look at what that person has done for public service. Thank you.
I think, it's hard to kind of, battle with in terms of Lois and Sharon them, but I guess I need to jump on that same train ride with it. But I absolutely agree. The overall goal or the future of what you want to see in SPAA is to really somehow do your part, do your due diligence, and making sure that our students know that the change begins with them. One of the biggest gratifying, moments that I have for SPAA, and if there are any students on here, you know this very well, though, but Dillard is a stickler for showing up late. Or, and students will run to the dean's office and everyone else's office saying, oh my God, Professor Dillard is driving me crazy. But one of the biggest aha moments for me is that 5 years later on, when a student can actually send me an email and they say, wow, I get it now. I understand it. I didn't really quite get it at that particular time. And I thought you would just kind of, you just had your thumb all over me about time, but I really get that sense of hard work and the sense of, now I kind of believe in myself. So I think the overall future of SPAA is really getting a chance so students can see that, the change starts with them and that they do have it, and to give them that courage and that confidence that's so desperately needed, particularly in times such as these.
I'm a big believer that if you get the culture right, then it opens up a lot of opportunities. And so I'm constantly thinking about how we can build a culture where our students, the staff, the faculty members can all flourish. So many places, it feels like people are competing with one another, and resources are scarce, I get it. But if you build a place where people feel like they can grow and they can learn and they can flourish, then you can just get all kinds of wonderful, exponential outputs out of that. And so my hope is just that we continue to build that culture.
I would have to say that I think I would want to see more of a role, or I guess maybe a connection between different parts of SPAA for international students. I think often that international students kind of, kind of group together, right? Because they're, they have kind of a similar experience, right? They're all, they're finding some of the same pain points, right? They're trying to be right in a new place, in a new school. And I've thought about this a little bit, and I think even I, and the debate team, other programs could find more of a role, right, to reach out and make them feel like they could be more connected and that they have more resources and opportunities across the school.
Jane or Madeline, if you have any final comments.
I'll share. I want to make sure Madeline has time. So mine is a little bit more focused as I think about it. I run the CPM program. So people who are in CPM are already upper level managers and leaders in their communities and in their work. And we have 130 students a year that participate. And I'd love to create more linkages between those public managers and our students, because I have people doing everything that come to CPM. And I think that would be something I'd love to see, the opportunity for them to learn from people that are in the field already. And we're already working with Dean Gibbs to get more of the CPM graduates to attend SPAA. So we're working on that pipeline as well. But I think there could be a reverse pipeline. So that would be my wish.
And mine would be that I just hope that SPAA becomes more well-renowned and more recognized, that students know how important it is to have a degree in public service. And, you know, overall, I think my hope is obviously eventually when we all retire, when I retire, I would like to see SPAA in a better place, obviously, than it is now. And just moving forward and having just continue to have this diverse population of students and faculty who are well-renowned and who have the knowledge and the expertise in this area and even in other areas. And I think I'm going to also agree with Elijah. I would definitely like to have more of an international student population as well. I know that our PhD works very hard in regards to that. So I would like for that to continue. I think it's important that we have a diverse population because we need to learn from others and kind of grow from there. So that would be my hope for SPAA.
Thank you. So it's a little over 12. So I would just like to thank all the panelists, all the attendees for coming today for this conversation. And thank you panelists for sharing your experiences with SPAA as a student, as you started your work, as you came back to SPAA. I think students would find this inspiration to come to knowing the journey that you have taken. So thank you so much for coming to this event today. Have a great day. I think hopefully it's sunny outside in New Jersey today.
A little bit. Yeah.